WACPtv, the place to be. For we are creative people. Stay tuned for the best, and the rest of your life. WACP-TV, the place to be, for we are creative people, and some place to be on the phone with a special guest, Chief Elder Osiris Akibala, born and raised in Orlando, Florida. He is a graduate of the University of Florida with a BA degree in sociology with a minor in political science. He's a longtime activist in pursuit of justice for black people. Very active in the civil rights movement with SNCC and CORE, where he held several positions there. And he was a local chapter organizer of the state of Florida, advisor for the Youth Council of the NAACP, state chairman of CORE, and later organized the Pan-African Movement. He was the chief elder of the Pan-African Movement, Sankofa Reparations and Repatriation Movement. He has lectured publicly, speaking at colleges and universities across the country. He was a member of the team that addressed the Working Committee of the United Nations on Reparations in Geneva, Switzerland, 2004. Let us welcome our distinguished guest, Chief Elder Osiris Akibala. Are you there, please?
Yes, I am, sir.
What is your thoughts on this day and this period of time that we're in right now, Chief?
To be more specific, I guess we could point to the events that have taken place over the month or so concerning the young men who was gunned down by police officers, which is nothing new because it goes on back into our history in terms of how law enforcement act and react toward black lives. So that is my concern. What is happening today?
Wow. Black Lives Matter. That seems to be a theme that people are really going with, that Black Lives Matter. So tell us, give us more on this situation and where we stand as a people, and what is your thoughts in terms of what our response should be?
Okay, first I would like to say that I am one who is very racial in terms of my identity, and I make no apologies about that, based on the fact of our enslaved ancestors as it relates to America, and the fact that I came up through Jim Crow prejudiceness and racism. So it kind of got me into a mood of being non-conforming to the suggestions of the very forces and sources who are now attempting to lead us not to become so racial oriented and to get away from what they call race as being a topic of discussion and to be proud of. I listen to so-called liberal whites when they're trying to make their case with black people as not being as they were in the past by stating that they are now colorblind. Whenever I hear that, my antennas go up. I become more and more suspicious. Plus, I take it as an act of disrespect towards me, because all this blackness staring them in the face and going to tell me they can't see it.
Wow. Colorblind and the era of inclusion or multiculturalism, as they want to say, all of a sudden, when it seems to be that those who have been on the bottom rail or stretching and kind of like waking up. Ooh, like, we sleep a while, but now we're waking up. So all of a sudden, the words multicultural and, inclusion and all like so has to come out. What do you think about that?
Well, I tend to be a little more reserved on indicating that we as black people are waking up, because not until we start dealing with solutions to our problem will I consider us to be becoming awakened. And so, as I observe what is going on today, regarding Michael Brown and incident and Eric Garner and little Tamir Rice, Jordan Davis, Trayvon Martin, and many, many others who falls into this category as being victims of circumstances relating to racism and more so unjustified prejudiceness towards black people. So I would go on to indicate that I have a message for the black world, more in focus to the children of the black race. They whose life is and has always been under attack ever since Eva came into the presence of our black divine ancient cosmic first way ancestors, if you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
They are those who came to this planet Earth with knowledge of what divine essence God is, and with an awareness of the meaning and purpose of the cosmos, with an understanding of the sacredness of the black life. So I guess what I am attempting to do is share with black people information capable of saving the black life from the clutches of an America whose very fabric is made out of racism, also unjustified prejudiceness and discrimination against the black race. And yes, race is our marker that identifies who you are and have been made to be by the nature of our design. So I am one who do not apologize for my blackness, and I am in conformity with nature in the way that it has designed me. I have no problem with that. So yes, in the mind of the black African today, it must be race first, as Honorable Garvey said. To have race first at the top of your black mind, you see, it gives to you to be divine black being. That's who we are and what we are, and should have be that with self-respect and dignity. So regardless of what white America would have black people and the world to believe about race in the mind of black people, it has always been and must be again in the mind of black African people, race first, which is very, very hard to convince black folks to adopt. Because you see, to be racial inclined is not to be racist in mind. It just verifies, the dignity of acceptance of who we black African people are. A people who once were black, divine, and proud to be so. Needing not the white race to dignify who we black people are, as they spread lies about who we are not. So they come into our midst espousing the air of superiority over our blackness, and the moment they find out that there are some of us that fell through the crack that didn't buy that junk, now they want to back up and say, let's get away from race. When they are now living in a country that was built and based on race in a negative way as they look towards the builders, which happen to have been our enslaved ancestors. So today, I share this message with the black youth in America and throughout the world, in and out of Africa as well. Do I share this information with my sisters and brothers? So in America, there are demonstrations going on now, as you know, about the injustice in America against our black and poor youth, whose life is the target of injustice at the hand of white and black devilish authority. So we should and need to be aware of where and who you are, and we are, and who black folks choose to listen to in America, which is the bedrock of racism, unjustified prejudice, where the life of black African people carry no value or respect in America. The government that instituted the spirit of child slavery against black African people, who was stolen, from Africa against the victim of child slavery, willing consent. So I address our black people today with the blood of our young black males dripping from my mind, having the vision of the evil young black youth face every day. They being in an environment called America, which we, no black person did not choose to be in today. And now our life is without the value nature originally assigned to it. So I present to our young black people a life gone by concerning, the young man, young Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Jordan Davis, Trayvon Martin, and the others who have gone by the same way from living by the hands of police authorities. So the many other black lives I am not mentioning here, but is included, that his words are respect and remembering. They too have been slain at the hand of injustice in America because of the pigment of their skin. So I ask you who now are marching and demonstrating against the unjust death of young black lives in America, I ask you, what the demonstration is this for? I would like to hear what the reply would be. Why are we marching and demonstrating today? What is your goal and objective that motivates your action as you demonstrate in defiance to the killing of black lives in America by American institution of law enforcement? We need to start thinking about those questions and have an answer for them. So, because if the goal and objective is what have you demonstrating today for civil rights progress and for better treatment of ourselves in America, then we are involved in an open-ended act of demonstration. Because as long as black people are in America, the loss of the black male life is to be expected, be it at the hand of law enforcement officers or at the hand of the system of America, killing black people, and you have no safe haven in America to run to. Not black people, not our children. So the solution to the danger our black children face with their lives in America is reparation freedom from America. Something many, many black folks in leadership positions don't want to hear, and mainly a whole lot of white folks I know don't want to hear, because it is a solution that not even the so-called liberal elements of America, as I forestated, they who are out there demonstrating with black people about the unjust killing of black people, they will not agree. You mentioned reparations, they will not agree to such a definite and defined solution to that for which all of the demonstration is about, which is the killing unjustly of young black lives in America, so they say, by a system responsible for such action, a system rooted in racist tactics, views, consisting of unjustified prejudices acted out against the black youth in America. The only solution to the racist entanglement of our black youth find themselves in today in America is freedom from America. Let me say that again. The only solution to the racist entanglement our black youth find themselves in today in America is freedom from America. And that freedom is to come by America extending justice to our enslaved ancestors, which they have yet to do. And they can only do that by paying to them their reparation, so that the children of those enslaved ancestors can take our enslaved ancestors along with our children back home to Africa. And we having the right to become the next established state to govern ourselves in Africa, motivated by the respect we have for our enslaved ancestors. So you see, the only solution to the crime being committed against our black children is reparation, which represents freedom now and has no expiration date in America until they pay it. So you see, black people must stop demonstrating every time a black child life is taken unjustly. If such demonstration is based upon what you want to happen instead of what we need to happen. And what black people need is freedom away from America. And it is the payment of our enslaved ancestors' reparation that will put a stop to the unjust killing of our black children. They need a solution to such a problem. And that solution is not about progress in America or a better life in America. It is about freedom from America with the payment of our enslaved ancestors' reparation. Now, that is a divine right that is not to be compromised, just collected, motivated by the respect we have for our enslaved ancestors. Reparation, you see, is a debt owed to our enslaved ancestors and is a way overdue, very, very far overdue for payment. So as long as America refused to do justice by our enslaved ancestors, it verified the continued activism of racism and unjust prejudices, which is still practiced against Africans in America, not with a visa or a green card, not were we waved into America by the Statue of Liberty, but came as chattel at the bottom of American enslavement ship. So it is time for black people in America, we who love our black children, to organize for the purpose, I think, to solve the problem of America, not demonstrate against it and go home and sit down. And that solution comes in the form of reparation for our enslaved ancestors. They who have earned every dime owed to them for the abuse, our children and black people in general have endured, died for, and survived the barbaric action applied against our enslaved ancestors by America, which have America legally indebted to our enslaved ancestors, and they need to pay the debt up. Because what causes reparation to be so sacred and be the final solution to our problem is that it reveals the fact, as long as it is not paid, racism in America, by America, is alive and well and active. So we as black people need to be more active in demanding our enslaved ancestors reparation to solve the problem that have occurred here recently, that have us not demonstrating because our children are being killed as if their life is of no value at all. So that, my brother, is my observation and my feelings at this particular time in regards to what is causing black people and others to be out there demonstrating at this particular time.
All right. Well, I know that there's a lot of energy being put into these demonstrations and marches and sit-ins and die-ins and blocking of the roadways and all. A lot of energy, you know. So what is your take on what should be done in that they are cranked up to do something?
Well, you see, the fact that these demonstrations only come about only when a black child's life is taken unjustly by the hand of so-called law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
Or by anybody's hand. It's when we put on our walking shoes and go out and start yelling and saying all type of stuff that has no meaning in terms of a solution to the problem.
Right.
So, I think the first thing that we need to do is come to the realization and admit that we as black people in America are a disorganized people. And the first step towards our freedom, the first step to actively protecting our children is for us to just hold up and look at the necessary need for us to come together and work out a plan that will lead us to come up with a solution that will stop what we're always demonstrating about. We demonstrated like this in the 60s.
That's right.
Of course, we were able to, tear down the barriers of so-called segregation, which lead us to know that we were misled at that time.
Absolutely.
Because freedom was not the objective, obviously. So my question is, when in the hell are we as black people going to have freedom as an objective so that we can adequately take care and protect our children away from such evil that is up against them now? And I sit and I listen and I watch the so-called white media hosts using their little psychological tactics against our people, knowing how we are so influenced by the white media and how they come and try to retaliate when we begin to attack the evil that is taking our children by pointing to what be going on in the black community in terms of so-called black-on-black crime. But what they don't understand is that, yes, there is black-on-black crime at the hand of black people against black people, but what be the motivation for that action is a system invested in and embedded in racism and prejudiceness. The motivation for the black-on-black crime is a misconcept of the young minds in thinking that a certain part of the black community belongs to them, and they call themselves protecting their turf. So you see, that is misleading, and they have their little bailiwick of drug territory which causes that type of killing as well. But I look beyond that and see that what is motivating the so-called black on black crime is stimulated by what America has done to our black youth.
That's right.
How did drugs get into the community without the CIA delivering it?
Yes.
So black on black crime causes that action still to be perpetrated by America. So even in the black on black crime, both are victimized by the act of America to keep us dumb and ignorant and having less self-respect about ourselves, because America keep pumping that junk into us, keep creating those types of environment, giving us the demand that we don't really need, because it didn't come with us, to have us talking about we're trying to protect our turf one against the other, when, you know, in America, black folks don't control nor own a damn thing. So in the final analysis, whatever we do, however we do it, America is the problem. That is why, if we are serious about the solution to our problem, if we really care about our children, the only issue we need to hold up before the world is the issue of reparation, because it points back to the evil that America has done towards black people. And it's too stout-hearted, too stout-minded to realize and to admit the wrong they have done and to compensate our enslaved ancestors with all of the evil they took them through. And based on that fact alone, the children of those ancestors become qualified and available to take our ancestors home and our children back to Africa. And there is where we have the right to establish a state of governing ourselves and become involved in solving the problem of Africa and African people there at home. So that is my perspective, and that is the way I look at the situation as it is unfolding here in America today. And by the mere fact that we never know what morning we're going to wake up to the news another child is gone. You know, and in my mind, that's what tells me that as long as we allow our children to be in this violent environment, then the black parent has to take the responsibility for the death of the child. You know, as a matter of fact, might be at some point need to be a demonstration against the black parents for failing to protect the children.
Wow.
So you can look at this in very, very different constructive, thoughtful, critical ways. And free critical thinking is a clear indication that you're using a mind that the white man didn't place in you. And when you're using your own mind that was you inherit from our ancient African ancestors, I'm talking about the cosmic ancestors that came here from a distant galaxy, which is a whole different topic to be discussed. But it only indicates and shows that we carry a quality of DNA that we are not acting based on that quality of DNA capability of having us to act. So something is wrong. And what is wrong is those people who came into our ancestors' midst at that time with nothing but dirt on their mind, they were able to take advantage of the divinity of our ancestors, and thus began the trip of exchanging places with us, mentally anyhow. inserting their mind into us and taking our mind. And now, it's like the movie, there is an act of changing places that have taken place.
Changing places, yes.
So, and black folks going to have to understand that who we are today is not who we were before. And who white folks pretend and appear to be today is not who they are. So, solutions must be the primary objective for the activity that black folks become involved in today. And that solution, as far as I am concerned, is reparation, because I understand and I know the sacredness of that source. And I know that it serves as a beacon, also as a mirror that reflects on white America to show that it is still a racist state as long as they don't settle up with our enslaved ancestors. What are we to do? Are we to give them a pass on what they have done to our enslaved ancestors? Look away and say, well, that's all right. That was a long time ago. Forget about it. Let's start now. Hell no, not me. No. If you have committed a wrong, if you have committed a crime, like he tried to teach us, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
But as far as we are concerned, any crime committed against us by him, it carries no debt on his part to us. Oh, come on. Now, if you're going to demonstrate, if you're going to march, if you're going to create slogans, create it in that vein of letting this devil know that we're not going to ever forget what happened to have us be in America today, not by choice. And here still, America will not acknowledge her wrong and repent seriously, and that seriousness will indicate a readiness to pay to our enslaved ancestors their reparation. You see, I am the only one that presents reparation in the way that is supposed to be presented, because anybody else who's talking about reparation, it'll mislead you into thinking that it's about a check, an individual check to each one of us. No, it's not so. What the hell have we done to earn reparation? It's about our enslaved ancestors. They are our key to freedom. They suffered for this particular purpose. So when we cry out for reparation, it's not for what we have done, but what has been done against our enslaved ancestors. Therefore, we being the children of those enslaved ancestors makes us the proxy to stand in and represent our enslaved ancestors, since they are not here today in the physical form, but we carry them every day in our DNA. And I, for one, am always reminded by them that they will not be satisfied until we, their children, take them home. This is not their home, even though some black folks, the black devils out there, will try to mislead black folks into believing that America belongs to us. No. I don't want any part of it. Not like this. Pay up. Settle up with my enslaved ancestors. Let us take them home. And when we get back to Africa, we have a divine right to establish ourselves as a self-governing state. And you have some black Africans in Africa who is just as out of their mind as we are over here when they look at us, the diaspora Africans, as they call us. Some indicating that we have no right to come back to Africa, when in fact we have more right to Africa than they who didn't even leave. and allow this devil to come in there and take everything. So don't come preaching to me about what our rights are or are not. I can envision through and by the revelation the ancestors give to me to show that whatever has taken place in regard to that event the white man called child slavery was done so for the mere purpose for us to eventually return home to set the record straight there in Africa. And this is no personal effacing that I'm about to do, but based on the fact that we were brought here against our will, we have risen to become the most shrewdest, the most intelligent, the most capable of African, qualified to go back home to put Africa back to where it once were. So don't come talking about we got to get permission to come back to Africa. Our enslaved ancestors has given us that permission. They own just as much of Africa as the one that didn't come. So it's this type of teaching, it's this type of conversation, it's this type of action, mentally and spiritually and physically, the African in America must adopt if our children are going to be saved and if Africa is going to become for the African once again. And there is to rise once again a black African nation in unity, one with each other. Because a unified black people symbolizes to the world to be as the sun is in our solar system to the planets. As it once before, when our ancient carnivorous ancestors were walking upon this planet, introduced the first civilization ever known to man, it had all other members of that particular world revolving around them because they carried the height of intelligence and wisdom about the cosmos, knowing what God is, knowing the meaning and purpose of life. So those who now enslave us, those and now who slay us, once sat at the feet of us. And as the word goes, as it was before, so shall it be again. But those are just words if they are not put into action. And only one that can make that be so are black people who will go into action, demanding our enslaved African ancestors with a clear purpose of returning back to Africa with our children, with our enslaved ancestors, and their reparation, which will qualify us to become a bona fide, sovereign state in Africa, where the sister and brother there can look upon in awe and amazement. And we establish a dynamic relationship with each other again for the purpose of taking Africa back and uniting our people once more.
All right, then. Well, Chief, we just got a text message in with a question for you. It says, if reparations is a political action, what would be our first step towards setting this up?
Well, as I stated before, the first step is the realization of its need and our right to it. And that can only come about only if we will come together to organize around that particular issue. As long as we stay splintered away, stay divided from each other, reparation has no chance of becoming a reality. Black folks has no relationship to freedom, and we remain under the foot of the enslaver. So the first thing we need to do is come around to realize that we need to organize ourselves to become a really viable force that can go into action, demonstrating to our enemy that we are serious about what the hell we're talking about and what we're demanding. We can't get reparation individually. Reparation is just as much a spiritual aspect of our being as a political action. And those components have to come together and work divinely with each other. And when I said divinely with each other, I mean in harmony, order, and balance with each other.
Okay, thank you very much for that intermission, and now we'll go back to the interview. We have online, live and direct, as you know, Chief Elder Osiris Akibala, and he's going to let us know about some things that's going on today and some things that's been going on and some things that need to be going on. So we want to get back to him momentarily. So, Chief, are you there, please?
I'm here, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. So during the intermission, we were talking about some things, and one of the things we talked about was the fact that there was a big march in Washington that sort of on C-SPAN resembled the one that took place in 1963. Can you talk about that and relate that to the time that we're in and where we need to go from here?
Yes, the times are different. I came up during the 60s when demonstrations and marching was for a particular purpose and had a goal in mind. And the goal at that time was to tear down the barriers of segregation and allow black people to move freely into the various public institutions and places of service, even though it had nothing to do with obtaining our freedom, but at least we had a goal in mind. But today it seems as if the demonstrations that are going on is for mere entertainment. Entertainment led by so-called phony black leaders and pumped on by the phony, racist white media. And it's the white media that seem to be pushing and fueling whatever type of demonstration we do today when something unjust happened to our children or to black people in general. So marching today is different in terms of objectives and goals as it was during the time when I was coming up. And we need to put a stop to just performing around the death of our children, but start doing something revolutionary, something that has to do with liberation for our children. And at this point, as long as we follow the so-called black leaders today that juice up and energize these type of useless demonstrations, we will continue to be just an entertainment force of today, while the forces of evil continue to have their way with taking the lives of our children, with knowing there is no repercussion to come that would be of a higher nature to cause such evil to come to a cease and stop.
Okay, well, we noticed that after the march, although it was similar to what happened in the 60s, I remember coming up, and we were talking about that we wanted equal books, equal schools. We wanted to be separate but equal. And then all of a sudden, we were introduced to a word called integration. We never heard that word before. We didn't know what that was, but we were sold on integration as opposed to what we was asking for, which was to be equal, to have equal schools, equal books, equal this, equal that. So can you compare that day with today and how things have transcended and got us asking for or not even knowing what to ask for and marching and demonstrating? Can you talk about that?
Yes, I see where you're coming from. You're right. We were blindsided somewhat during the 60s because you have a cadre of black activists who were being acted based on the premise that we were seeking liberation, seeking freedom. And here come the so-called civil rights pimps of that time, injecting what the white social theorists had instructed them to inject within the movement, and we comes up with so-called integration assimilation. And that became a confusing force to deal with when all the time it had nothing to do with eliminating the evil that black folks are confronted with and face every day in this country. So, but then that type of demonstration we were performing was entirely different in texture and in nature than the demonstrations that are going on now. The mentality of the demonstrators of the 60s was entirely different from those of today because they were to be faced with all type of forceful opposition. You know, you remember the dogs and the water holes and the whips and everything. It's like we were 2 steps away from child slavery again, but yet we moved on. But today, the only motivation, you see coming from the demonstrators today is through and by the juicing up the emotions from that is injected in us by the so-called black civil rights pimps of today. So there is no clear objective that comes from the demonstrators of today among black people. And they are not being informed and led in such a way it would have them to know that a goal and an objective of freedom must be in mind. It must be the motivation. Because you're going to have many more opportunities to demonstrate, to march, because the devil is not going to stop killing our children. And I think we should come to be of a mind and a spirit that we are no longer going to this demonstrate for demonstration's sake. And the only way that can be accomplished is to change leadership, black leadership, and deal with the black voices who are going to point you in a direction whereby these types of confrontations and action that is coming from America's justice system and law enforcement will come to a cease. And until that happens, demonstration would be nothing but a moment of entertainment and gaiety. You may have a few throwing rocks and a few firebombing, but that is not going to be the remedy needed to bring our children into the circle of safety.
So if I hear you correctly, we're talking about reactionary as opposed to proactionary. And
there you go.
And
Yeah.
these things have been happening all along, and until we become proactive, that's the only thing that's going to stop it, is to look into the future and see, look in the past and look in the future and see, okay, these things have been happening, they continue to happen, so what do we do to stop it, and we don't have to deal with this anymore. We don't have to react because it's not going to happen.
You're correct. We need to become really, truly serious about what we be demonstrating about. We demonstrate as if we would like to see a cease to take place from the way law enforcement handle and deal with our children. But we are not proactive enough to convince the law enforcement we are meaning business. And until we do become that force of proactiveness, which will have an objective and a goal in mind, then they're going to let you march until your tongue hang out, because they know you have no objective, you have no goals. All you're doing is expressing and letting out emotional steam just for the moment.
Mm.
And this time that we're in today, it's not meant for us to act momentarily. It is meant to act in such a way you're going to come up with solutions to the problem that is having you to demonstrate. And that means that we will have to become more proactive than reactionary.
All right, then. Well, we were in a conversation just the other day, and the conversation went to a lady who lives here in Atlanta, and she had to go to work and leave her children. And while she was gone, the house caught on fire, burned up a couple of the children, and now they're talking about charging this lady with a crime or a double crime, or however many children was killed in the fire. So we were looking at the situation, and we said, wait a minute, the neighbors, the community, need to come to this lady's aid and tell the authorities it's our fault. It's not her fault. It's our fault. We should have had her back, and this would not have happened. So it's our fault. It's not her fault. We should be organized as a community to where anybody in the community that need food, anybody that need protection, any sister that's a single parent sister, she need to have somebody checking on her, So can you speak on that?
Yes, and I agree with you. When it comes to the children, our children, our history, our past, our story substantiate the fact that the entire community was responsible for the protection and the take care of the children. But today, we've become so individualized and so focused on the me thing, until when there's a need for the community to act in concert towards a problem, we're nowhere to be found. And I just wrote a post indicating that, what is happening with our children, the adults is going to have to take more of a responsibility for it. Mm. Because, the child should be allowed to be and act as a child. But they're not able to do that because they're not becoming responsible for taking care and protecting themselves. Where's the parents? Where's the elders? Where's the grown-ups? They're supposed to be the one that have our children back, not the children having their back. So you're correct. That community, that neighborhood failed those children just as much as the parent. The parent didn't. They were going to do what they're trying to do to take care of the children.
That's right.
And what has happened is that we as black people have sat around on our behind to the extent we now have allowed the system to take control of our children. and dictate to us how to deal with them, how to take care of them, what behavior to show towards them, what to do and what not to do with them. So it's the environment that we're in, my brother, that is causing our demise. And until black folks come to the mind and the realization to understand that if you are not creating your own environment, you're a victim of it. And that is where we are today as black people in America, victims of the American environment.
All right, then. Well, we were talking about, and we are actually engaged in making a movie. And the movie starts off in royalty over in our motherland, fatherland, and everything is just honky-dory. I mean, it's just beautiful. No violence, no disease, no anything. It's just a dynasty. And then it comes on into today, because we actually dealing with the beginning and the end. The middle takes care of itself. But the end is what we are seeing every day today with the demonstration, the marches, the killing of our youth and all like so, and the uprising. Now, we're bringing this movie to a close, and we want the audience to be able to see what we need to do and how we need to do it, but we're not going to tell them, we're going to show them. So what would that ending look like to you as a seer? Because we are asking seers to help us with this movie, because we need to end it right, so that you have the feeling when you finish watching this movie, whether it's at home or at the movie theater or whatever, they need to have the feeling that, I have something I got to do now that I've seen this movie. I have something that that I can do now that I've seen this movie. So what would that ending be like for you?
Well, it seems like you've already indicated what it would be. In other words, the ending must be as the beginning of it, if I understand what you're communicating to me.
Okay.
Our people need to be bombarded with the fact that we started at the top of civilization. Mm-hmm. And we were the one that was communing with the elemental forces that caused us and gave us the intelligence to know how to create one of the greatest civilizations ever to be upon this earth. And then you show the regression.
Right.
I'm sure that's what you all are doing.
Yes, sir.
But once you get to now time, which is part of the regression, you end up by pointing back to the begin time. Mm-hmm. And so that is the direction we need to go. Because the further on in the progression, as they call it, progress as we hear of it today is an enemy to black folk.
That's right.
Because it's moving you further away from where you started. And where you started was from on top. But the enemy do not want you to know that, do not want you to see that. And we've got to continue to educate our people and to give them some kind of visualization through different types of moves that you're talking about to show that you didn't start the way the enemy has conditioned you to believe that you did. But here's your beginning, and here's your now, and here's what you must do to get back to your beginning, away from your now.
All right, then. Well, I tell you, we've talked about quite a few things. We've covered quite a few subjects. If there's something that you would like to share in closing, I mean, you're open. The mic is open. The phone is open. The people are ready to listen. And as we conclude this communication, but we can't not ever conclude it. It continues on and on, but we're just concluding it now in this particular dispensation. and telephone conversation. So what would you have to share with the people to take us to the next level?
Well, you know, my motivation is centered around reparation.
Yes, sir.
You know, that's my vision. That's my goal, and that's my objective, as has been revealed and given to me by the ancestors and prompted me on by the Honorable Marcus Garvey. So I cannot do anything. I cannot see anything other than our right and our need to demand our ancestors' reparation, because I know it is reparation that serves as the salvation to Africa and black African people. So makes no difference what we do or how we do it, as long as we are in America. We're up against a force, a giant, who has committed itself, its system, its action, to be against the return of African people back to their original state of mind. So the only way that is going to happen is through and by us embracing the issue of reparation and make it become a reality by demanding and collecting from America our ancestral reparation. And the way we do that is not concentrate on what the spirit and the reaction is going to be that comes from America. We must concentrate on what the spirit and action must be that come from the children of those enslaved ancestors. Because reparation embodies more than a physical acceptance of something. It also requires a spirituality to know that something is going to be received. And that is the way that black folks must begin to go. That is the issue that we must embrace. That must be our motivation. That must be what calls us to get up in the morning and lay down at night, because it represents Africa's becoming for the Africans again, and African unity, which has to do with our freedom. And nothing trumps the freedom of black African people.
Well, I noticed that you mentioned our ancestors' reparations, and that is uniquely different from what you hear normally people say. They say our reparations. So in closing, just give us a difference there, because that's unique, our ancestors' reparations.
That is the correct utilization of the issue in terms and action of reparation, because reparation stems from the enslavement of our ancestors. It comes from the activity of America in the construction of the behavior of child slavery towards our people, which caused America to labor us from day to night. Do what America so desired to do with our people in any way, as perverse as many ways it was. It's that type of abuse and disrespect and physical damage that our enslaved ancestors endured, not the children, which now make the obligation be upon the children to demand the punitive damages that our enslaved ancestors has already earned. And what makes it so low down about America is that it gives off the impression that all of the evil they have done towards our enslaved ancestors, they are not to be punished for it. They are to go free from it. And I'm saying, if you are a respectful, obedient child of the ancestors who endured all of that hardship to give birth to your black behind to be here, then you have the obligation to show that respect to your mom and father of that time, and make sure that the criminal don't go free from the evil ways they have treated our ancestors. So reparation is just no more like a suit that you file against someone who have done you wrong. And for instance, take the Michael Brown situation. The criminal has stated that I'm innocent from the physical damages I've caused to your son. Now, I'm willing to grant you that the mother and father are not going to stop there. They're going to go to civil anger. The civil anger deals with some type of monetary punishment if I can't get your physical punishment.
Mm-hmm.
The same with our ancestors. They have killed them. They have treated them like dogs, lower than dogs. They have gotten a great nation from them, from their labor. And you want to tell me the children of this time that come from that time is going to sit back and allow America to go free?
Mm.
No. And what that says about us, we might as well have been the one that locked the chain around their neck and cracked their whips across their back. If you want to sit on your behind and allow America to tell you, hell no, I'm not going to pay, and don't even come to me about it. And they will continue to do that until we show America. And you're dealing with a different type of black man and woman here today. And we're not going to shut up. We're not going to be satisfied. And we're going to move forward to do whatever is necessary to collect a just debt.
Okay.
And
well,
I'm informing black people that if we move in concert, as I have so stated, with one single mind towards connecting our ancestors' reparation and demanding, then you will be surprised at the many other nations out there who will come to your aid. But for you to sit and think it's only going to be you up against what you now view as a giant of the world, then no, you aren't going to ever move. But because of the force and the gravity and the frequency that comes from the actions of black folk, it would move other nations in the world to come to your aid. But they aren't coming as long as you don't show them that you're ready for justice.
But we gave y'all a black president.
Well, that's part of the racist act of America. And there are certain mentalities among black people in America that saw that before it got here and denounced it. And I was one of them.
Yes.
I knew that Obama was not the answer to our problem. Hell, we played no role in selecting him, nor did we elect him. So nothing that happens in America happens without America's consent. And I'm saying the only thing that America cannot fully control is when black folks come together as one, think as one, and move as one. It sends tremors through America's spine.
All right.
Why? Because America saw you in the point and at the time of your greatness. And they know what the potential is that is within you to do. Even we don't know that. Many of us, but I do. Mm-hmm. That is why I keep pumping. We need to come together and demand our ancestor reparation. And if we do it with one mind, one cause, one objective, one goal, not to be deterred, America will bow. They will have to recapitulate to you. But you don't go into something with a mind feeling like you aren't going to get what you're demanding. You demand what you know is just, what is already yours, what you have the authority to collect. And that is where we fall short at. And all this other sub-topics that we be dealing with, it's okay. Look, I'm a reasonable and intelligent man. I know that we have to continue to deal with certain levels of issues in order to survive. That's right. We have to. But the ultimate issue is what's going to cause you not to be able to be exposed to all of this injustice anymore is reparation. Because that's what takes you back home. And don't misread me. Going back home doesn't mean that you're going back to sit on your behind, but that's where the work is. You see, they have torn up the motherland. And they have torn up the motherland and have ripped the minds of Africans and Africa apart. So you got a whole nother cosmic-like landscape to deal with when you do return back home. But you know what?
What's that?
The journey of the Middle Passage has educated us, has strengthened us, has physical equipped us mentally to be able to deal with any and every obstacle that we will face once we get home, back home to Africa. Because what? Once we get back to Africa in the way that we supposed to get back there, it served to be the sign that we were victorious in collecting the reparation. So you're not going back as settlers, not as beggars, not as somebody who don't have nothing. You're going back to establish one of the greatest states that would ever be in this particular day and time.
That's right.
And from that foundation do we move out across Africa, educating our people and letting the invaders know we're home. We've come back home now. So y'all can pack up, get the hell out, because you messed up the motherland long enough. Now, I am wise enough to know that everybody that occupy Africa once we return back is not going to be just Africans. But I also know that whoever remain in Africa remain with the consent to be under the authority of black African people.
All right,
that's
then.
the gist of everything. We will no longer relinquish our authority and our power ever again, because Honorable Marcus Garvey has forewarned us that a race without power and authority is a race without respect.
All right, then. Well, there you have it from Chief Elder Osiris, and we're going to invite you to come and hear more of what Chief Elder Osiris has to offer to us on his page on WACPtv.ning.com. You can meet him, you can chat with him, you can converse with him, and he is a sharer and a knower. So stay tuned and keep in touch. Thank you very much, Chief Elder, for being a part of this conversation. And we will never finish the conversation, because the conversation goes on until we receive what?
Our reparation.
All right, then. Thank you very much.
Brother.
Yes, sir. Hotel.